Hey everybody, welcome into this Friday edition of Wiltfong Whip Around. I'm Grace Remington with our Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, and we are going to start this episode in Ann Arbor, where the Michigan Wolverines add a huge piece to their recruiting class, and that is quarterback Jadyn Davis out of Charlotte, Providence Day, picking Michigan over Clemson, North Carolina, Ohio State, and Tennessee. Michigan now with the third class in this cycle. Steve, this has been a long time coming. So how did this decision officially come about?
Well, Jadyn Davis was one of the first prospects to emerge nationally in the 2024 recruiting class offered by Alabama and Georgia after strong camp performances in 8th grade. But Michigan grabbed control of this recruitment over the summer, took 2 visits to Ann Arbor, returned 2 more times in the fall. And Grace, this probably would have been done earlier had the Jim Harbaugh NFL smoke not ramped back up after the college football season. But the one thing that Coach Harbaugh was with Jadyn Davis and his family throughout it all was honest. He kept Jadyn Davis and his family abreast of all things with him related to the NFL. And he's back at Michigan. Jadyn Davis visited earlier this month, got a chance to connect with new quarterbacks coach Kirk Campbell, loved him, loves Jim Harbaugh, and he is in the fold for Michigan. The Wolverines now have the nation's number 3 ranked recruiting class with him in the fold, threw for 3,425 yards and 43 touchdowns as a junior, just 6 interceptions, the state Gatorade Player of the Year in North Carolina after taking Providence Day School to a state championship, 6 foot and a half, 205 pounds. Jadyn Davis, man, I'll tell you what, you're not going to find a player with better character in this class, a family with better character. And, he's a polished passer, great footwork. I think that he sees the field well, navigates the pocket at a high level, makes really good decisions with the football, puts his playmakers in position to do things after the catch. And I think he just really hit it off with Jim Harbaugh from the very first visit. Him and Coach Harbaugh clicked at a high level and built a great rapport with each other. And one of the most important factors in Jadyn Davis's decision after academics, he always says, my mom said no books, no ball. She's in education. She's a teacher. So she meant that. But he wanted to play for a coach that's got pedigree under center. And there is not a coach in college football that played the quarterback position better than Jim Harbaugh right now. And so that connection, Jim Harbaugh's offense, his experience in the NFL, the way he connects with the quarterbacks on campus, that was a big thing for Jadyn Davis in his recruitment. The Davis camp really hit it off with the McCarthy camp throughout this recruitment. And so anytime the Davis family would visit Michigan, I've heard someone say that anytime Jeremiah Davis would see Jim McCarthy, JJ's dad, it'd be like 2 old fraternity brothers getting together for a weekend in Ann Arbor. So JJ McCarthy and his development at Michigan, him stamping Kirk Campbell, them getting up to hang out with Kirk Campbell themselves and see a spring practice, all those things put Michigan over the top. In addition to, I think this is a young man that really wants to play in the big game, right? Ohio State versus Michigan. Jadyn Davis is a college football junkie, loves the sport. And for him to get a chance to play in the biggest rivalry game in college football is another layer that was super exciting to him. So this springboards Michigan into a big recruiting weekend, Grace. It's their spring game. They're wrapping up spring camp. And they're going to have a lot of their commits back on campus, from Jordan Marshall to Jacob Oden to Hogan Hansen, Ben Roebuck, Zach Ludwig. They're all expected back. And then there's going to be some top targets. Top 247 offensive lineman Andrew Sprague returns to Michigan. I think the Wolverines are the one to beat for him as they battle several other powerhouse programs. He just dropped the top 10, but obviously I think Michigan's in pole position as he comes back this weekend. I logged the crystal ball for Michigan this week there. Caleb Brewer and Bennett Warren are 2 other highly touted, highly recruited offensive linemen that are going to visit this weekend. If you're an offensive lineman and you have Michigan high on your list, you may want to move up your decision timeline with the amount of high-profile offensive linemen that have visited Michigan this spring. They already have a couple committed When you win 2 Joe Moore Awards in a row, offensive linemen are lining up to play for you. And Michigan's got some of the best in the country considering them, and a few of them will be on campus this weekend. 2 of the top quarterbacks, the top 2 quarterbacks in 2025, Grace, expected on campus this weekend. George McIntyre from Tennessee, Bryce Underwood for what would be a 3rd time this spring if he makes it to the spring game. Michigan's really trending up for Bryce Underwood's teammate, top 247 2024 linebacker Jeremiah Beasley. He's taken a couple visits this spring. Him and new linebackers coach Chris Partridge have really hit it off. I know that the chalk talk session that Partridge and Beasley had was one that really moved the needle for both sides. I think Michigan was impressed with Beasley and his high football IQ, and I know Beasley just enjoyed getting on the board and talking with the Michigan staff there. But 2025 linebacker Christian Pierce from Chicagoland, he's the younger brother of Roderick Pierce, who signed with Michigan in 2023. You got 2025 linebacker Riley Pettijohn from Texas expected. And then you got the law firm of 2025 offensive lineman Amir Leonard, Gene Charles, coming up to visit as well. So some big names coming to Michigan's campus this weekend, and there'll be a lot of excitement in that environment because of Jaden Davis's commitment. And Grace, they're fixing the jumbotrons and updating the stadium at the Big House. So I don't think there's going to be live music at the spring game this year. So this recruiting momentum to juice up that student section in area will be big with Jaden Davis jumping in the fold.
Yeah, the dominoes starting to fall. And another 2024 quarterback announcing his commitment this week. That is Jake Merklinger out of Savannah Calvary Day. He commits to Tennessee over Georgia, Michigan State, and North Carolina. So the top 10 QB, we now know where he's going. What went into his decision?
Well, I think for him, the visit that he took this past weekend pushed Tennessee over the top. That was he went into that visit with no plans of committing. And by the time he left campus, he had told Coach Heupel and company that he was in the fold and going to play his college football in Knoxville. And it was just because he got to be around Coach Heupel. He talked about how genuine Coach Heupel is, the personality, and then called him a phenomenal football coach, and then pointed to the development of quarterbacks through the years of coaching, impressive, and the offenses he's had. And similar to Jaden Davis and his commitment to Michigan, Merklinger is excited to play for a couple guys in Coach Heupel and Coach Halsey, who played the position at the college level. And Coach Heupel at one point was one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And so to be under those guys' tutelage is exciting for him. This is a young man that's played a lot of high school football, thrown for nearly 7,000 yards in 3 years, 75 touchdowns. He's also got 20 rushing scores. I know that Coach Heupel and Coach Halsey went up to see him play basketball this winter and just loved the toughness and the way he performed on the hardwood, in addition to what he brings on the field, which is a dual threat guy that can make the throws and again, as a good decision maker that has a high football IQ. One of the most interesting things about this commitment, obviously, you got to ask him, you're coming in there after Nico Iamaleava, the arguably the number 1 quarterback in the 2023 class. And Grace, he said, look, one of the things I did throughout my recruitment, I try not to look at depth charts. I feel like that's something that isn't healthy. I'm excited to get in there and be around the guys and hopefully get to call some of them my best friends someday. I'm excited to get in there and be around them. So he's looking at college a little differently than some people, where there's, you got the NIL factors, playing time. Like, he's going to college to have a great experience in college, play for some great coaches, make some great friends, be the best football player he can be, and he'll see where that takes him in life. And so I think this is an exciting pickup for Tennessee as they try and get a second straight top 10 recruiting class under Coach Heupel and company, a program that was ranked number 1 in the country at one point last year. They have a shot to make the college football playoff year in and year out from here on out, in my opinion. And they got a lot of blue chippers that are looking at them right now. And that starts with Jordan Ross from Birmingham, Alabama, Vestavia Hills, been to Knoxville several times, 5-star, number 2 edge rusher in the country in the updated 24/7 Sports Player Rankings. Cooper Patagna loves him. So does Tennessee. They've had him on campus numerous times as they battle Auburn and LSU, Georgia, Auburn, Georgia. LSU. Those are some of the other contenders, but I think that Tennessee's well positioned with Jordan Ross at this point in his process. 2 defensive backs that are visiting this weekend. Well, one of them, Boot Carter, he could end up playing in the backfield, wide out as well. And then top 247 safety, Ricardo Jones, they're visiting this weekend. I think Tennessee leads for both of them. I think Tennessee leads for another guy that we shot up our rankings recently, another edge rusher that Andrew Ivins has fallen in love with, Cameron Fountain out of the Peach State. They got top 247 offensive lineman Daniel Calhoun back this weekend. He's going to take his official in June. I still think Tennessee leads for Edwin Spillman. Cam Michael from Georgia is a guy that they love on both sides of the ball. He's visiting Monday. We've talked a lot about 5-star receiver Mike Matthews, who could play in the secondary on the next level if he wanted to. He's going to be back at Tennessee on Monday. Williams Nwaneri, our number 1 ranked defensive lineman in the country. He's already visited once this spring. He's expected back this weekend as part of like a 7-on-7 tour. They're taking their swing at top-ranked linebacker Sammy Brown. Marquise Easley's a 4-star offensive lineman from the Midwest that's going to be on campus this weekend. They have legs with 5-star defensive lineman Cam Franklin. They're definitely in it for 5-star defensive lineman Edric Houston. And they're taking their swing at number 1 ranked running back Jarrett Gibson. Obviously they're still trying to push for Ryan Wingo, who at one point I think they led for, so maybe they can bring that back their way. The number 6 overall player in the country, Jaden Riddell, is one of the top tight end recruits in America. They're near the top of his list. So Tennessee, they're recruiting the best players in the country. They just landed one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They're coming off a great season. Arrow super up on Tennessee right now, Grace.
Yeah, and the Vols jumped from 13th to 6th in the national recruiting rankings with that commitment from Merklinger. 6 commits in that class now. Georgia has a couple of 5-stars on campus this weekend. They got versatile edge rusher Dylan Stewart and linebacker Sammy Brown, who, by the way, Steve, I don't know if you saw, he just posted some crazy videos of his lifts in the gym. He hit 390 on his max rep for a clean, and then 590 for 4 reps on squat. So that's a linebacker you don't want to mess with. But what can you tell us about their upcoming visits?
Yeah, he's a linebacker that can bend and is explosive and powerful. He's also the state wrestling champion in the heavyweight class, and he's one of the fastest sprinters in the state. So Sammy Brown is freakishly strong, freakishly athletic, and it's easy to see why he's so coveted. But he's just an extremely competitive kid that likes playing multiple sports and he's a performer, right? So Georgia, that's the program I've been giving the hair to for a while. I know I may have backtracked that a little bit talking about him recently because I think Clemson's right in there too. But I really like Georgia's position for Sammy Brown. Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Tennessee are the other contenders for him. He's going to be at Tennessee over Easter weekend. But I really like Georgia's position for Sammy Brown as they get him back on campus. And then Dylan Stewart is the 5-star edge from the DMV. He is the most coveted edge rusher in the country by the powerhouse programs. And I love Georgia's position. They're kind of the one that I've marked as the team to beat as he goes into these wave of visits here. He's recently at Ohio State, recently at Michigan. But I love Georgia standing here. I love Alabama standing here. I think South Carolina is in a great position for him. I think schools like Miami and Oregon are going to have a lot to say in his recruitment as he moves forward. But he's a guy that wants to stand up and rush off the edge. And I think he loves Georgia's scheme. I think he loves Georgia's player development. And he's been there before. This is a return visit for him. And he's as coveted a player for Kirby Smart and company as there is in this cycle. Coach Chidera Deribe is doing a great job recruiting him. And so I think that Georgia is in a prime position for Dylan Stewart as they bring him back to campus this weekend and try and add to what's the number 1 class in the country. One that I think has a chance to finish number 1 all time, starting at the top. I love where they stand with Dylan Raiola, and we'll go from there.
All right. 5-star defensive lineman David Stone visited Miami last weekend, and he loved it so much that he's going back-to-back, making the trek from IMG Academy down to Coral Gables for his 2nd weekend in a row. Steve, what have you heard from the nation's number 2 defensive lineman?
Well, he loved his visit to Miami last weekend. He's coming back to Miami this weekend, and they are a major, major player in this recruitment. Miami signed the best offensive line class in the country last year. I think it's Mario Cristobal and company's mission to sign the best defensive line class in the country this year. And David Stone is certainly a young man that they're going to have a great chance to land. They just had Elijah Rushing on campus last week. Five-star Kamarion Franklin's been there twice now this calendar year. They're in the middle of it for him. Justin Scott, the 24/7 Sports Composite five-star from Chicagoland, he is visiting next week. Dominic McKinley, they're in the middle of it for. LJ McCray, Aiden Breland. There is a lot of really good high-profile defensive linemen looking hard at Miami. And like I just said, Dylan Stewart, he put out his top list of schools. And Miami wasn't in there, but I'm telling you right now, they're a major contender for him. I expect him to get back down to Miami here heading into the summer. He's already been there once. And so Miami, the offensive line was a major point of emphasis for Coach Cristobal and company last year. Defense is going to be the defensive line. That's where Mario Cristobal is investing a lot of time. And you and I both know that he's the best head coach recruiter in the country. He's got his sights set on defensive line. And so they're going to hit on some of these guys right now. They're going to hit on some other guys too, Grace. Aaron Nolan, he's committing on April 8th. I think Miami could be trending again for him following a 3-day visit this week. And you look at the way when Miami was a championship contender and they had it rocking and rolling with the playmakers that they had, the Reggie Waynes and Santana Mosses, Jeremy Shockeys and all those guys. And I'm starting to kind of bring together different championship teams. But Aaron Nolan could be like the glue guy that brings all this great recruiting together like Ken Dorsey was during his time. But Aaron Nolan, a talented guy that threw for over 4,000 yards, won a state championship as a junior, but his personality is off the charts. And Miami 3-day visit, great visit. He loved it. We got quotes on the site about that right now. Texas A&M's a major competitor for Aaron Nolan. He's at Ohio State this weekend. Then he's at Bama early next week. He may go to Oregon for a couple days too before announcing on the 8th, but then still has his official visits in play as Arkansas and Clemson are also in there for him. So Miami maybe gets their top quarterback target. I think they're going to sign an epic defensive line haul. I think they're in great positions for guys like top 247 receiver JoJo Trader, Jeray Tank Hawkins, Terrence Moore from Tampa Catholic. Khalil Valentine is a running back there in a good spot for. And we talked about those D linemen. A couple other kids, Kingston Viamaasa, Cam Pruitt, Keyshawn Flowers, some other guys that Miami's well positioned for right now.
All right, let's go back to the Big Ten. Ohio State currently with the 7th best class in the 2024 cycle. And the Buckeyes impressed a couple guys. 5-star cornerback Kobe Black, who was on campus last weekend. And then, Steve, you say Jeremiah McClellan also looking good for Ohio State. And he recently tweeted that he'll be releasing his top 12 list of schools on Monday. So what's the latest with these two?
Well, he'll put out a top 12. I think Ohio State might be in pole position coming out of his recent visit to Columbus. Ohio State's just done an excellent job recruiting St. Louis as of late, particularly his high school there. And I think that visit that he just had set the tone for him and his recruitment moving forward. Ohio State's in the mix for several talented wideouts. We like them for Milan Graham. They obviously have Jeremiah Smith committed. You got Micah Hudson out there. But Jeremiah McClellan, super high on Ohio State right now. And then Kobe Black, he's a 5-star corner from the Lone Star State who just came up with his parents. And I think that was a needle moving visit that puts Ohio State in great position to get an official visit from Kobe Black. Now there's, look, he's got all the big time programs in the mix. Alabama, Texas, those are two that are definitely in good shape for Kobe Black. But I think Ohio State is in the thick of that one following a really good visit to Columbus this weekend.
All right, let's get to some mailbag questions now. And we are going to start with Abro310. He asks, how do you think Minnesota has been able to get off to such a good start on the recruiting trail as they sit just outside the top 15? Although I think now they are the number 12 class.
Yeah.
So either way.
Well, when PJ Fleck gets top targets on campus, they're tough to beat. I mean, Minnesota's culture is as strong as any in college football. Their coaching staff and PJ Fleck are all pulling in the same direction. And I think this is a year where the guys that they've targeted, their timeline to make a decision has been sooner than maybe in some other cycles. So Aaron Philo and guys like that were ready to make their decisions after great visits here this spring. And look, Minnesota, they've been year in and year out one of the better teams in the Big Ten under Coach Fleck and company. So there's a lot of excitement there with just the results that they've been able to have on the field, and then what Coach Fleck has done historically with producing NFL players in multiple position rooms. I think that they got a lot going on. But look, PJ Fleck, he's as outgoing and as engaging a head coach as there is in the country, and that just doesn't get as much burn because of where he's at. But PJ Fleck goes hard on the trail and leads the charge from the corner office. And again, they had a great chemistry with their coaching staff on campus, the results on the field, what Minnesota offers on the field, and then off the field, being in Minneapolis. It's an exciting place to go play football.
Yep. Row the boat. All right. Our next question. This is a fun one. We got some NFL draft content here from Billy M. Of the 3 quarterbacks at the top of the NFL draft, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, who would you want your favorite team to draft if they had the first pick?
I'd be curious your answer on this as well. The Colts have the 4th pick in the draft, so just looking at it through the Colts lens, I would love to have had Bryce Young. So it was disheartening to see that we weren't able, and I say we as a half-season ticket holder, that we weren't able to trade up to number 1. CJ Stroud would be an awesome addition as well, and maybe he goes number 1. I guess I don't have a crystal ball on that. I mean, I think those 2 guys are clearly the top 2 guys in the draft with what they've done on the field and what they offer as leaders. I think that they both are exceptional in all of that. Would have loved to seen either of them in a Colts uniform. I don't think that's very likely with the 4th pick right now. So I'm really in like the Lamar Jackson camp, Grace. Like whatever it takes to get Lamar Jackson in Colts blue. 2 first-round picks, I'd trade them. I mean, you're getting a former MVP that's 25 years old that when he's on the field is a hell of a player. I'd love to see him in the same backfield as Jonathan Taylor, who I think is a special player. And so I'm on Lamar Jackson. I know I'm going off the rails here right now. But who do you like?
All right. So here's the thing. CJ Stroud, number 1. Absolutely. The only rip on him all season long was his creativity off script, but then he goes out and has the game of his life and silences all the critics there in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Bryce Young, obviously the only concern there is his size. I mean, he's a Houdini. There's no one like him, but I do wonder, is it his style of play that exacerbates the size issue? Because if he plays smarter, then maybe he's okay as an NFL quarterback. I think football is a cyclical game, right, in terms of scheme, and we're actually starting to see things go back to an interior power type style. Everything's going away from the spread now. Statistically, that's what it's showing. So I don't know how long guys like Bryce Young are, or how much longevity they have. Those are my thoughts.
He held up in the SEC. Obviously, there was scrutiny about his size coming in. I think he's extremely tough and poised. He's obviously a tremendous leader. If you watch that Tennessee game, Alabama was kind of on the ropes all day. He's, use your word, making Houdini-like plays to keep Alabama alive. But anytime there was any adversity in that ball game, you could just see the determination and poise that he had, and the way he was always able to be the calming influence on his teammates to really – keep that engine going on offense. So I mean, Bryce Young, he is as remarkable a person as I've covered. I know you guys have seen all the, stories that people have written on that and his family, but it's legit. I mean, that guy is an amazing young man. That's just extremely mature. But CJ Stroud, love him. But I think we're all in on Lamar here in Indianapolis. I speak for the city. Get Lamar Jackson.
Do you? Okay. No, I don't doubt any of that about Bryce Young. I don't doubt his character at all. And obviously you want someone with that fighter mentality. And of course we saw that against LSU, Texas late in the game as well. But you saw the Frank Wright video, right? Or no, it was Josh McCown telling CJ Stroud, like, hey, come hoop with us when you live in Charlotte. Did you see that at Ohio State's Pro Day?
I didn't, but hey, if Bryce Young slips to number 4, I'd be extremely happy about that as well. But I think I'm all in on Lamar. I'll keep saying it. Lamar Jackson to the Colts. Let's speak it into existence.
Yep. Manifest it. All right. Our next question from Jay Landers. Do you think programs with second-year coaches like Miami and Oklahoma will start to see a downtrend in recruiting if the results on the field don't get better this season?
I mean, if that happens, certainly. But look, Mario Cristobal was a winner at Oregon. I don't expect Miami to take a step back with the way that they've been able to recruit, the coordinator hires and coaching changes that they've made going into year 2 at Miami. I think it's an exciting time to be a Hurricanes fan right now. If they can stay healthy at quarterback, I like the hire of Coach Dawson. I think they've brought in a lot of speed on offense and playmaking ability that's been surprisingly lacking at Miami as of late. And then I think they're adding toughness at the point of attack on the offensive line. Look, it's still going to take some time. I think you kind of put them on a similar trajectory as Coach Sark at Texas. They can be 4 or 5 wins better in year 2 and then go from there. That's exciting and I think very realistic. And then Oklahoma, they had a season that they are certainly not used to in Norman. And if that repeats, I think it'll be tough because, Coach Venables has less of a track record. He did not take a team to the Rose Bowl. He did not take a couple teams to the cusp of the college football playoff like Cristobal has at Oregon. So there's no point of reference for him as a head coach. But just speaking to people that are in that building that have been around winning football, they're excited about the trajectory of that program, love Venables, love the direction. That defense was pitiful last year, 128 nationally or whatever it was. Coach Venables hasn't been anywhere close to that in his career on defense. They recruited an outstanding class, number 4 in the country. They did well in the portal. I expect Oklahoma to be better than they were. But certainly, look, if both these teams come out and are below 500 again, it's going to, all of a sudden it's going to be a tougher sell.
Yep. And with NIL, transfer portal, we're seeing all those windows for success shrink. But certainly looks like good things are coming for both those programs. All right. Well, that was a good show. Thank you, everybody, for sending in your questions. Thank you for watching. We are taking a break for the next week as Steve goes on a well-deserved vacation. So, Steve, enjoy your time off. But in the meantime, everyone subscribe to 247sports.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you don't miss a thing. Get all your latest recruiting news with us throughout the week, and we will see you very soon.